If everything goes to plan, there should be no reason for us to linger longer than needed. I doubt Arya will be staying until the realm is destroyed, so the moment I see her, I'll be able to leave and track her down at a later time. Shiro reassured. In order to track someone down, she needs to see the codes of the area and where they've exerted their influence. If Arya does indeed run away, finding her through the myriad of worlds would be a difficult task, if not for the fact that she could use the beyond as a gateway. She'll be able to scan every world to find where Arya is. As long as I see her once, there'll be nowhere for her to hide. Shiro thought to herself with narrowed eyes. If you're that confident, then okay. Should I open the path now? The sooner we do this, the better, since there are more locations where I can place the portal. The longer we take, the more limited the options become. Yuri asked as she waved her hand, and a Tier 9 magic array slowly revealed itself. Similar to a puzzle, the array started to rearrange itself into the shape of a door. Probably put us near the center of the god realm, Nyx suggested as Shiro nodded her head. All right, once again, I'll warn you. Try not to be close to the edge of the realm, since you could be swept along and disappear. Even someone of your power, I doubt you'll be unscathed, Yuri warned while glancing back at Shiro. Flicking her finger, mana surged from the beyond and converged towards the door she had just created. With a swirl of energy, a portal emerged. Take this orb. It'll keep you updated on where the exit portal is relative to your location. Since the realm is collapsing, I might need to shift the position, explained Yuri. Thanks. Do I owe you anything? Shiro asked before she stepped through the gate. Just take this as a gift. It's only a small matter anyways. It wasn't as though she was helping them fight. Her job was to just open a portal and keep it open for their return. Yuri didn't see a reason for Shiro to owe her. All right, see you soon then. Giving Yuri a small wave, Shiro jumped through the portal with Nyx following behind her. Similar to the portal to the world of creation, Shiro could feel a moment of rejection before being eased into the current. So what do you plan on asking Arya when you meet her? Nyx asked curiously. She knew that Shiro had a grudge against Arya, and it could very well turn into a fight if they met. Well, just how much she knows in general. Hopefully, I'll be able to learn more about the third party, Shiro replied as several thoughts crossed her mind. Shaking her head, she focused her gaze forward. No matter what Arya tells her, she will find out the truth eventually. When that day comes, I'll most likely face the third party. As they reached the end of the portal, Shiro activated the power of the Bifrost to help them land safely. After all, she doesn't want a repeat of what happened when she was turned into a missile upon arrival. I suppose a welcome is in order. I present to you the God Realm. Nyx smiled. Surrounding them was a myriad of floating islands that pulsed with mana. Above them was the sky, a kaleidoscope of colors reflecting the domains of each god, from the ephemeral blues to the burning embers of red and the radiance of gold. The sky was unlike anything Shiro had seen before. It was circumflexy, stretching from each island. The strands of mana twisted and threaded together to form bridges. Architecture from each mythology could be seen, each with their own defining trails. Honestly, this place looked a lot better before, but it is pretty much an empty realm now, with the exception of a few stragglers who had their anchors destroyed. Nyx shrugged as she released her aura, threatening the gods who were spying on them. Usually gods would leave this realm. Shiro and Nyx were the first ones to arrive ever since the realm started to collapse. Can't they just take the portal back? Shiro asked curiously, but Nyx shook her head. Nope, they don't have anything to anchor down their existence in the mortal realm. If they left this place for the mortal realm without an anchor, it'll only be a matter of time before they die anyways. They're just enjoying the last of their time in this world. Nyx replied, though, there is a way for them to live a tad longer, I suppose. She whispered while creating a barrier around them that blocked the sound from escaping. Oh, Shiro raised an eyebrow as her interest was piqued. While she was also a god, she didn't know much about the rules. Yep, all they have to do is consume enough mana to sustain their divinity. Think of it as a cup of water with a hole in the bottom. When the cup is empty, they die, but if they manage to keep refilling that cup, they'll survive. Naturally, using mana in a fight will speed up this process, so they'll need to pick their battles carefully. But if they somehow manage to kill a god and consume the mana, their existence will be stabilized for a short time. Nyx explained. Not many know of this, though, as the gods who know of this have made preparations to protect their anchor to avoid this kind of situation while keeping others in the dark. After all, it's a temporary method. If they somehow manage to devour all of the mana in the mortal realm, they'll still die eventually. They're essentially zombies, I suppose. Any god who still has their anchor wouldn't want zombie gods running around the mortal realm threatening to fight to their last breath. Nyx shrugged as Shiro nodded her head in understanding. She could see why the gods who know chose to keep silent on this matter. They already had their hands full with trying to find the right person to ally themselves with without knowing who the lifeline was. If they had zombie gods running around, it'll only make matters worse. I suppose if a god did leak the information, it would be hell in the mortal realm. Bingo. It doesn't help that it has indeed happened before, though it was still kept in the dark thanks to the system's censorship. But let's not dally. How do you want to look for Arya? Nyx asked curiously. It's pretty simple. I just need to trace Ikari's code back to his domain in this realm. Once I get there, I should be able to find traces of Arya. Closing one of her eyes, circuits appeared on her iris as the world blurred into code. Bringing up Ikari's code from memory, Shiro waved her hand and started to search through the code of the god realm for a clue. That is pretty damn handy. Since the system is so ingrained with our universe, having Error being able to tap into that vault of knowledge makes life so much easier. Nyx muttered while marveling at Shiro's abilities. Error certainly makes tracking people down easier. I can also use the system, but only to a small degree. Most of the features are still unavailable for me, the main one being my own stats. I assume it's due to the fact that having both creation and destruction is an anomaly to begin with, and needed admins help to quantify my strength in numbers even before I got my new core. But with my strength now, it caused another malfunction when I tried. Shiro shrugged as she flicked her finger. A system interface appeared in front of Nyx as she blinked her eyes at the stats. Name: Shiro. Race: pound %, and $. Title: $, $, and $pound $, and Y*. Level: Class: asterisk and $, and asterisk pound and $, and caret and asterisk pound. The rest of the stats were in a similar situation as Nyx couldn't understand anything written on her status board. Without proper maintenance, I've surpassed what the system has been designed to record, I suppose. Shiro said nonchalantly as Nyx was stunned into silence. When even the oldest of primal gods, the firstborns, could be quantified, how strong was Shiro now for the system to malfunction by trying to calculate her strength? Thinking about a potential answer, Nyx felt shivers down her back. If you want, I can turn the system back on for you, Shiro offered, but Nyx shook her head. I will pass. It's not like I relied on it before anyways. For Nyx, it was a rather good feeling to not be restrained by the system anymore. This new freedom was welcomed. Nodding her head in understanding, Shiro focused her mind on tracking down Ikari's domain. She had already sent out small bots to travel across the realm so that she could see the codes of the entire god realm. And soon, her lips curved up into a smile. Found it. Upon discovering Arya's domain, Shiro saw that it was rather close to the edge where the realm was being erased from existence, so decided to not delay things any further. Using the drone that tracked down Arya's location as a teleport node, Shiro created a portal and gestured for Nyx to follow them. Diving through the portal, the beautiful scenery of the god realm disappeared as destruction graced their view. An infinite spiraling darkness pulling large chunks of land towards the void as the skies dyed dark purple from its influence. The sound of debris crumbling as though it was the thundering roar of a beast wailing out in the distance. Arya's domain was surprisingly simple compared to Ikari's domain, where she usually resided with Ikari and his daughter. Shiro had caught a glimpse during their fight along with what the drone saw when she sent them out to scout for Arya's domain. While Ikari's domain was a grand castle created in Arya's name with large golden gates and pear white architecture, Arya's domain was less fancy and visually stunning. In the deepest recesses of her domain, a lonely cottage stood against the backdrop of destruction, inching ever closer with each passing moment. Furrowing her brows, Shiro scanned the house for any traps in case she had prepared something for her. However, despite her suspicions, there was nothing. The house has been completely emptied out with the exception of a few minor items that was still scattered around the cottage. Judging from your expression, she's not here. No, she isn't. There's no traps or anything like that either. Shiro shook her head. Opening the door, Shiro could see that this house hasn't been deserted for long, as there are still signs of Arya being here. The next step would be to track her code through the items lying around here, but I think I can dig a little deeper. Kneeling down, Shiro placed her palms against the floor and closed her eyes. Similar to how she tracked down Arya, She could filter out certain lines of code that cross with certain terms. Example being if Arya mentioned Shiro or anyone Shiro was familiar with, she'll be able to find the moments where Arya mentioned them and see what happened. Naturally, it'll take a while to scan through all of the codes to filter out what she's filtering, but Shiro wanted to see what she could find. A brief scan was all she's going to do since she'll find out more when she meets Arya. Thinking to herself for a moment, Shiro decided to filter for the instances where Arya talked about anima. If she was to talk about the original firstborn of destruction, it might lead me to finding out the truth that caused anima to get rid of the firstborn of creation. For Nyx's sake, Shiro made sure it would create a holographic projection if it was to find any instance of Arya mentioning anima. To Shiro's surprise, her filter results were over 50 instances of when Arya mentions anima. Whether furrowing her brows, she decided to filter out the meaningless conversations such as just randomly mentioning Arya. Once she cleaned up the results, there was only 5 instances left. Flicking her finger, a holographic image of Arya appeared in front of them. No, that can't be. How is she back again? Her essence should be sealed. I had Ikari kill Nitri so that Anima's essence would fall dormant again in the soul crystal. I watched it happen, so why is she back again? And on the verge of awakening no less. Did the system hide her from me? Arya walked back and forth while biting her nails in frustration. As the hologram faded away, another appeared. Ikari is faltering already. At the rate things are going, I doubt he'll help me if I told him about anima. Even if there's the risk that Shiro awakens and inherits anima's conscience, he'll still beg her to save our daughter without caring about the consequences anima could bring about. Anima destroyed the world once already, even reduced me to my current state. If anima wakes up again, I won't be able to stop her like I did before. No, I need to make some preparations now. The administrators are taking her side and protecting her without regard for what chaos she could bring. They can't be allowed to keep helping her get stronger. I need to delay things. It's over. It's only a matter of time before anima wakes up again. I only have one chance left to stop her. As the 4th projection was ending, Shiro expected to see what the method was, but the hologram started to glitch and morph. Arya appeared once more, but she was on the floor while an unknown figure loomed over her. The figure's body was constantly changing with no set form, as though the codes didn't know how to describe her. I see it now. Arya squeezed out as her eyes started to lose their focus. I see why anima tried to end things, ha ha ha. How long have you been watching? How long have you turned this universe into your chessboard? Arya asked as foreign energy started to pulse through her body. But fine, I'll play your game. I'll do what I'm created to do. Arya gritted her teeth as the hologram ended, leaving Shiro and Nyx staring in silence. I suppose that glitchy figure is probably the third party? Nyx asked as Shiro nodded. Despite checking the code, she couldn't find what caused the anomaly. Yet the fact that she was shown in the hologram means that she was indeed here and the codes picked up on her presence. If the code discovered her, how come I can't find it? Is there something I'm missing? No. I'm checking through everything that I can read. Then it's probably hidden from me. Perhaps there's another layer. If there are 4 layers, the first layer is what everyone sees. Then there's the layer that admins see. Then the third layer is the code. That's what I see. Perhaps there's a 4th layer that the third party can see. There's nothing else to see here. And yes, that is indeed the third party. They have much better mastery over the system and the workings of this world than I do. Shiro shrugged. Though we did get a major hint, I suppose. Arya seems to be created by the third party. I'm not sure if that means her identity as the firstborn of creation or her identity as Arya. But regardless, just seeing the third party caused Arya to understand why she went crazy and tried to end the world. Which means by the time I see the third party, things should become clear for me. Hearing this, Nyx thought to herself for a moment. The first part doesn't make sense. Since Chaos was the one to create you and Arya when you were firstborns, she couldn't have created Arya back then. Unless she's talking about the current her. The Arya after the firstborn of creation has been killed for good, and only shards remain. Nyx frowned as Shiro contemplated what she said for a moment before nodding her head. True. We already know she's comparable, if not probably higher in terms of access level to the system than Chaos. She knows me quite well apparently, and she also created Arya. URG, who the hell is she? Shiro complained as she flicked her finger and created a drone. Let's track her latest location. I doubt she's gone far, but even if she did, I should be able to track her on Earth. However, seeing that the drone wasn't moving, Shiro tilted her head in confusion. It should be tracking Arya's location for now, but the fact that it wasn't moving means that something had gone wrong. Is she here? Nyx asked as she entered a combat stance. No, she's not. Don't worry. It's strange because my drone cannot find her code. Shiro furrowed her brows. Quickly activating error, Shiro scanned through the events that led up to the moment she came into contact with the third party. Upon seeing the codes, Shiro understood what had happened. Arya gained a power similar to my balance. What? She gained the use of both creation and destruction thanks to the third party. Though it's more primal, similar to how chaos is, I suppose. Shiro explained while scratching her hair. Due to the sudden transplant, Arya's code was mutating. It was neither Arya or chaos, but rather a strange hybrid. It was no wonder her drone couldn't scan it out considering Arya no longer existed. With the new code imputed into the drone, Shiro found Arya immediately. She was standing near the edge of the god realm, almost touching upon the unknown void. Let's hurry. Shiro frowned, not knowing what Arya was planning. Opening a portal, Shiro created a path towards Arya. Things are progressing rather smoothly. After she kills Arya, she'll be able to find out more of the truth. How does it look, Chaos? Your daughter's fighting to the death once more. Cycle after cycle, I continue searching. Cycle after cycle, you watch them fight. Though I suppose this is the last cycle. Well, I hope it's the last cycle. I haven't seen this much hope in so long, aha. Laughed all on her own in the dark unknown, watching everything unfold with a smile on her face. Standing in the air, Arya hovered silently while staring at the void seemingly as though she was trying to find something within the destruction. Sensing Shiro and Nyx's arrival, Arya didn't turn around and kept her eyes towards the void. How much do you know? Arya asked calmly, causing Shiro to furrow her brows. Not much. I only know she created you, has authority on the level of chaos, and seeks something from me after I find out about the truth. Shiro shook her head. You truly don't know much then, do you? Shame. Arya sighed as she finally turned around. Frowning slightly, Shiro could see visible markings across Arya's body that was pulsing with chaos energy. After reaching the level of balance, Shiro understood that this kind of strength wasn't one that Nyx could interfere with. Already thinking of killing me without searching for the truth. How very like you. Arya narrowed her eyes as she disappeared from her spot. A blade appeared in her hands as she stabbed towards Nyx's head. Before the blade could steal Nyx's life away, Shiro had already grabbed it with her bare hands and snapped it in half. The hell do you think you're trying to do? Shiro warned coldly as she tried to grab Arya's arm only for Arya to disappear once more. Taking care of the pests. This chessboard was made for you to begin with. Bystanders have no right in this. Arya replied emotionlessly while flicking her finger. The space shattered as Shiro was now isolated with Arya, while the edge of God realm continued to eat away at the world. So come, do what is ordained by her commands, and come take the truth from my corpse. It is at the truth where you will find out the worthlessness of your existence, the curse you bring upon this world. It is there where you realize that there should never have been an anima, never should have been a Shiro. Arya cried out, each word filled with rage that had been buried deep within. Her own resolve, strengthening from the will of her previous incarnation, has given them separate roles to play. But anima managed to set the course off rail, and perhaps that was what caused the anomaly called Shiro to appear. The anomaly that could wield both powers better than chaos. Grabbing her blade, Arya stabbed it within her own chest as her flesh started to dissolve, leaving behind a skeleton. Pale white materials started to layer upon her bones with a crimson energy converging into an orb centered within her ribcage, where her heart should have been. A twisted fabric of flesh and blood cloaked her body, while several pairs of wings erupted from her back, adorned with a myriad of eyes that locked onto Shiro's position. A bloodied halo crackling with chaos energy appeared above her head, while the energy within the void that was shredding at the realm was siphoned into Arya's body. My blade will be the guiding light that brings this play to its end. By my hand shall I end the cycles of torment. Arya's voice rang out from all directions, filled with false righteousness. Both you and the other Shiro said the same thing. But that's fine. I will keep forging ahead, Shiro declared as she took a deep breath and activated her core. She wanted to bring the powers and form she took within her domain, but reduce the cost of activation. Snapping her finger, a mix of creation and destruction emerged from within Shiro's as her body was converted to black crystal flickering with the light of the stars. Wrapping herself with a fabric woven from the light of the universe, Shiro summoned both Iriel and Vinri. All of it was made with you in mind, Arya shouted as she appeared in front of Shiro, their blades clashing and sending sparks. Despite the barrier that Arya has activated to keep Nyx from interfering, the resulting shockwave still caused Nyx to slam against a building in the back. "Nyx, I'll handle her. Go somewhere safe," Shiro shouted out as she couldn't afford to keep her attention away from Arya. Right now, she was probably the only one that could match her new strength with balance. Pushing Arya away from her, Shiro activated one of her skills as her blade phased through reality in an attempt to claim Arya's life. Asterisk clang. Despite phasing through Arya's guard, a golden crystal, similar to what Arya's halo was created from, appeared and blocked the blade before it could reach her. A hand reached out, grabbing Shiro by the arm before throwing her over Arya's shoulder and slammed her towards the ground. Asterisk bang. Digging herself out of the crater in the ground, Shiro frowned and looked up. The lives that people have lived in this world is nothing but a false fantasy, all to test your worthiness. If you are unworthy, everyone dies. If you are worthy, they still die in the end. So tell me why your existence is not a mistake." Arya questioned as Tier 9 magic circles covered the skies, blocking out the void behind them. Renove. Taking a deep breath, Shiro activated her own Tier 9 magic circle. The ground around her started to shift before breaking down into nanobots. Standing atop a wave of nanobots, Shiro created several rail cannons before firing them off simultaneously. Asterisk crack ping. Shattering a myriad of Tier 9 magic circles, Shiro frowned seeing Arya create more than she could destroy. Immediately her body became sluggish as phantom arms dragged against her body, holding her in place. An angelic cry could be heard as Arya's halo turned pitch blade with her wings spreading out. A Tier 9 magic circle appeared above her as energy from the void converged and formed into a trumpet. With an intense cry, the trumpet roared out, shaking the entire realm itself before disintegrating to ash. Bloody etching appeared across Arya's body as her wings were set ablaze. Her entire being now looked like a malevolent demon that had crawled out from the depths of hell. "Answer me, Shiro. Why must you continue despite knowing the mistake that is your existence? Tell me why you shouldn't be sealed away so you cannot bring a calamity upon every living soul in this world." Gritting her teeth, Arya cleaved her blade down as hard as she could, ripping the space to shreds as blood poured out from the cracks, setting fire and melting all of the nanobots the blood came in contact with. Widening her eyes in shock, Shiro backed off before activating Iriel's ability of being able to cut down all forms of magic and divine spells. Imbuing her nanobots with the same power, Shiro created a wall of blades that pushed against the river of blood. Activating error, Shiro narrowed her eyes as the world transformed into code, locking down on the coordinates besides Arya. She disappeared and teleported beside her. Siphoning power from the world of creation into Vinri, Shiro slashed towards Arya. Suddenly, a portal opened where Vinri was about to strike as a flood of blood rushed towards her. TCH. Gritting her teeth, Shiro parried the blood away from her body as she was forced to retreat. Creating some space between them, Shiro glanced down at Vinri and froze up in surprise. Despite the fact that Vinri couldn't be destroyed, Shiro could see Vinri's code suffering from slight deterioration. A quick scan of the damage allowed Shiro to understand the reason why. While Shiro can use both creation and destruction in harmony, Vinri was a sword of creation and Iriel was a sword of destruction. They didn't have the same properties that she has. Through the energy of chaos, Arya was pushing the blades to their limits. Just like how I'm an anomaly that fundamentally challenged what the system was made to do, Arya is an anomaly in her current state. I can't fight her based on the knowledge I already know. Shiro thought to herself as she had taken into account that Arya could perform acts that were deemed impossible by the system. Well, do you have no answer for me? What is your goal? What do you fight for? Is it worth putting the entire universe at risk? Arya demanded an answer as Shiro stood up straight and stared down Arya while blood, flames, and nanobots collided around them, while the edge of the realm threatened to kill them. I fight so that I can make a choice. I fight so that I won't be part of the crowd when the call for destruction descends on the world. I will destroy as many worlds as needed as long as the one my friends live in is safe. Slamming her foot down, a Tier 9 magic array that Shiro had hidden above them roared into life as 10 layers of arrays stacked atop one another. Above the array was a single orbital cannon 100 times stronger than the one that caused the no-mana zone and imbued with the force of balance. Stabbing her sword down, Tier 9 magic circles appeared around Arya as time slowed down to a near halt, while the cannon fired a singular pillar of energy. Each layer of her array amplifying the energy until a blinding light crashed against Arya's body. Thunder crackled in the void surrounding them as the fabric of reality itself collapsed with a single attack. Even without using the code, Shiro could see that her orbital cannon had wiped out a large chunk of existence as a whole, with several paths connecting realms together being severed permanently. A singularity had been formed, consuming the infinite void and leaving a zone where no light nor mana could escape. But despite all this, Shiro could still sense Arya, causing a bead of sweat to drip from her head. For the first time in a long while, Shiro felt unsettled by Arya's physical defenses. You know nothing, yet continue to jump headfirst into the unknown without even taking into account the consequences of your actions upon the entire realm. Foolish, arrogant, you fight for a cause with oblivion as the reward. Arya's voice cut through the silence as mana erupted from her body. Despite being in the center of the null mana zone, she started to flood the entire area with energy, causing it to stabilize for a brief moment as a Tier 9 magic array appeared behind her. I know what I must do, not because it is written in fate. I will do what I have done many cycles before, Arya declared. A second trumpet coalesced behind her as she brought it up to her mouth and activated the instrument before Shiro could even try to stop her. As the wave of sound echoed out, the entire area seemed to have set on fire as all of the moisture was sucked out in an instant. Shiro barely managed to activate some defenses, but her right arm was caught just before she could protect it, causing it to be dried up into a husk. Bloom and flames erupted out of her arm as a result of the first trumpet, giving Shiro no other choice than to tear her arm off her shoulder. Quickly healing herself, she bent her body back with Arya's sword grazing the tip of her nose. With every single slash, a wave of blood flame would wash over in an attempt to kill Shiro. Know that your resistance will only cause more people to suffer for your actions. Gritting her teeth in annoyance, Shiro had no other choice than to activate some of her berserk skills in order to keep up with Arya. Energy enveloped Shiro's body as she ignored the blood flame and grabbed Arya by the wings. Throwing Vinri and Iriel aside, she latched onto Arya's back and plunged her teeth into her neck, tearing out a chunk of flesh before kicking against Arya's back and ripping out two of her wings. Jumping back, Shiro took a sharp breath in as her arms were now drained of moisture. Two blades of nanobots formed around her shoulders, cutting off the arms so that it didn't spread to the rest of the body. Just as Shiro was healing her arms, Arya healed her wounds and returned to peak condition. In the first cycle, after Anima had shredded the divinity of the original firstborn of creation, she could have ended the world, but she was stopped. I had used the last remaining vestiges of my life not to kill you, because I had known doing so would be the worst-case scenario. I burned everything I had. My chance at reincarnation, my soul, everything, just so that you will be sealed within a small domain at the edge of everything in the next cycle, where your influence is weakest so that destruction would not befall the entire realm. But no, you would not stay there quietly. I had burned everything only to wake up and find out you continue to wreak havoc upon this land. Do you even comprehend what it's like to embrace death knowing you did everything? Even burning the essence of your own being to seal someone because they couldn't be allowed to die nor get stronger, only to wake up and see that everything you did was futile. My strength, gone. My divinity, gone. I had done everything I could, but you still awakened. Arya shouted out in madness as her eyes burned red with fury. The flames around them surged with her emotions as the barrier she had put in place started to show signs of collapsing. Even with my powers gone, I have done my best during every cycle, hoping to pave the way for the people you don't favor. How did it feel, Shiro? How did it feel to erase thousands of worlds with your own hands? Arya questioned as she slammed her hand down. Crimson energy burst forth from the blood and lashed out towards Shiro, each holding the power to kill a god with one blow. Tilting her body to the side, Shiro dodged the first attack. Narrowing her eyes, she resummoned Vinri and Iriel before dashing forward, reinforcing her hands with nanobots so that she didn't have to continuously harm herself to heal. Shiro vaulted over the second attack before flipping her body through the air. Letting go of Vinri, she slammed her heel into the pommel, sending it forward at blistering speeds towards Arya. Just as Arya attempted to brush it aside, Shiro swapped places with Vinri, her eyes glowing with the power of error. Several Tier 9 magic circles gathered upon Iriel's blade as Shiro cleaved down with as much strength as she could muster. The sound of bones crunching under Iriel rang out as the blade dug deep into Arya's body, but stopped midway. Instead of focusing on defense, Arya reached out towards Shiro's stomach and tore out a large chunk of her flesh with her hands as blood flame poured into her body. Though I suppose you need to live up to your title as firstborn of destruction. Even if you strive for balance, you bring nothing but death and destruction. Run all you want, but you cannot escape what you've been made to do. A with ring above B. Lifting Shiro up slightly by her ribs, Arya twisted her body in a circle and kicked Shiro in the chest, shredding a hole through her chest before letting go and watching her body fly back towards the no-mana zone she had created. Before Arya could speak, she noticed a magic circle on her back as Shiro suddenly grabbed her by the face, fury burning in her eyes as a wall of blades surrounded them. Slamming Arya against the wall of blades, Shiro gritted her teeth and dashed while grinding Arya's head against the serrated edges. A trail of blood marked their path as Shiro didn't care what Arya was saying to dissuade her. Her will was firm, and it would not break under such meager provocation. As long as she doesn't give up, there is always a chance. It is only when she stops do they lose all hope. Crying out with adrenaline, Shiro grabbed Arya's collar with her spare hand and attempted to rip her head off her body as she activated more berserk skills to enhance her strength. The sound of muscle fibers tearing rang out as Arya's body dissolved into a burst of light. Bang! An explosion pulsed out as Shiro's body was flung back. A barrier could be seen collapsing around her as it was activated at the last possible moment when Shiro realized Arya had escaped. Tilting her head back, Shiro could see Arya floating in the sky with one hand across her neck with blood trickling through the gaps before being healed up. Arya's face twisting with anger as she summoned the third trumpet. Time suddenly stopped, causing Arya to widen her eyes as she didn't see Shiro cast the spell. I've been busy preparing traps for you while you were monologuing about how tough your life has been. Seeing Shiro appear behind her, Arya couldn't react in time as she tore the arm holding the trumpet off her shoulders. Roaring out in defiance, bones erupted out from Arya's back and stabbed into Shiro's body. Feeling the moisture being drained out of her body at blistering speeds, Shiro could only give up momentarily and teleport away before healing herself. But this only gave Arya the chance she needed as the third trumpet was blown. The blood surrounding the area started to turn purple as poisonous fumes were emitted by the liquid, but it wasn't poison in the traditional sense. The moment the fumes came into contact with the nanobots, corruption started to spread through the wave in an attempt to attack Shiro. She recognized it to be a similar corruption to what the people in the world of creation suffered. The moment she is attacked by the poison, she risked her core being set off balance. While the chance was low, Shiro didn't want to risk that chance and immediately cut off the nanobots that had been affected. Rotating her mana into an orb, she slammed it down, causing a wave of energy to push everything away from her and kept it at bay using rotational force. When she glanced back at Arya, her body was mutating due to the effects of the third trumpet. Along with the wings, additional appendages were bursting out her back with vines created from bone. A single glance into the code showed Shiro that Arya had a variety of energy surging limitlessly within her body that she was simply unable to contain fully. But Arya didn't care. She didn't have the luxury of worrying about her safety. Is there a way for me to destabilize the energies within Arya? If I manage to succeed, it should be able to deal lasting damage to her. Considering the fact that she's a walking nuke right now, Shiro thought to herself while dodging the incoming attacks. She had already dismissed her nanobots due to the risk of the poison, and she couldn't afford to have her attention split elsewhere right now. Each attack she threw at Arya would be deflected with ease due to the poison weakening the structure of her nanobots. Unless Shiro could deal with the poison, she'll have to focus on retreating. The barrier behind me can't be broken. The void behind her is risky too. Furrowing her brows, Shiro scanned the entire battlefield for anything she could use to her advantage. Thankfully, her traps were buying some time for her to analyze the situation since Arya's attacks were being fended off. Thinking about it for a moment, a smile crept up on Shiro's lips as an idea appeared in her mind. Jumping out, she was about to teleport when Arya's hand appeared in front of her face. Quickly ducking down, Shiro launched a barrage of punches against Arya's chest only for her hands to start corroding away as her body contained the properties of poison as well. Kicking against Arya's chin, Shiro dived down while etching runes into the sky. A myriad of shadows tore the space open and lashed out towards Arya in hopes of buying even an extra second of time for Shiro. Creating a handful of daggers, Shiro twisted her body, throwing them out in all directions and creating clones of herself that switched locations. Each clone activated a different magic array targeting Arya. A single glance at the arrays was enough for Arya to understand that these arrays were slight variations of the earlier attack that created the no-mana zone. You already know that attack doesn't work. Stop your resistance already. Arya shouted out in annoyance as she sent out a pulse of poison that targeted the clones. However, this was exactly what Shiro wanted as each clone started to radiate with mana, their cores burning to the max and threatening to explode. While the power of the orbital cannons when amplified by 9 tiers of amplification arrays was strong enough to shred the fabric of reality, she had a stronger alternative. If she tried this alternative before she gained her new core, the power would only be slightly stronger. But with the new balanced core, each of her clones had a miniature version within their bodies. If she overloads these cores, the collision between creation and chaos could very well remove a continent off the fabric of reality completely. That was the power of one clone overloading. While making more clones would reduce the power of each explosion, Shiro had already made preparations, hence why they were gathering as much mana as they could. The speed of which the mana was disappearing caused both Shiro and Arya to begin free falling towards the dark below. Each of the clones started to crack apart as a barrier appeared around them, sealing them momentarily while amplification arrays appeared and targeted Arya. Despite her new form, Arya felt her sixth sense warning her of danger. Gritting her teeth, she wrapped herself in layers upon layers of bone and flesh while enhancing her body as she couldn't fully deploy a barrier right now. Bingo! Shiro grinned maniacally as this was exactly what she had hoped Arya would do. Snapping her fingers, tins of teleport nodes appeared on Arya's body. When she had punched Arya instead of retreating even at the expense of corruption in her arms, she was planting teleport nodes that awaited her command. All of the clones were compressed down to the size of a fingernail as they appeared next to Arya. Widening her eyes, she was unable to open her cocoon of defenses in time as it had now become a prison, maximizing the efficiency of Shiro's attack. Bracing herself for impact, Shiro watched as her vision was reduced to darkness as her body slammed against the barrier, shattering it from the force of the collision. A beta. As though watching the dawn of the universe, within the darkness a pulse of blinding light exploded out, basking the entire realm in cosmic light. Pulses of purple and red flame erupted out, setting fire to everything within the realm. Watching everything unfold within the beyond with Yuri, Nyx felt grateful for Shiro telling her to leave because she would have been caught up in that if she was late. As the blinding light and scorching flames died down, the state of the realm came into view. At the center of the explosion, a singularity could be observed, a single orb where no light could be seen, where the realm twisted and converged towards the darkness. Even the void that was shredding the realm was not spared as it paled in comparison to the singularity. Surrounding the singularity, an accretion disk formed from the realm itself could be observed. Snapping her eyes open, Shiro quickly stabilized herself as the explosion had knocked her out momentarily. Quickly healing her wounds, she glanced towards the center and narrowed her eyes. While the effects of her attack surpassed what she had expected, something felt wrong. She could still sense Arya, or rather, Arius as it was as though she was multiplying. *T, shouting out in surprise. Shiro could see what was happening at the center of the singularity. The breakdown of the laws surrounding this world, a convergence and reflection of every realm and space across time. Arya was dragging every single Arya into this moment to heal herself, to allow herself to survive this attack that obliterated the god realm. Her tenacity to survive, her will to do what she fervently believed to be right burned in defiance. From within the orb of darkness, tens of giant claws tore through the void, clawing at the edges in an attempt to drag her wounded body out from within. Crying out in anger and defiance, Arya reared what remained of her head out of the void. Large chunks of her body were missing as she conjured 2 trumpets and activated them simultaneously. The 4th and 5th trumpet, The singularity surrounding Arya started to merge with her body as Arya was now almost unrecognizable. The realm itself healed and took the place of her body that had been damaged by Shiro's attack. Arya was now no different from a beast. 8 main extremities acted as her arms, clawing against the realm with bone and cosmic energy, forming her body while her lower half was submerged within the singularity. A myriad of tendrils lashed around with blood flames lining the sides of the tendrils. Her face was now a fractured mask with only a singular eyeball intact that glared at Shiro unblinking. Within her chest was a kaleidoscope reflection of all of the realms still existing. The fractured skies rained down blood and flames, engulfing the realms in chaos as the energy siphoned towards Arya, empowering her more with each passing moment. It was no exaggeration to say Shiro was now fighting an amalgamation that was feeding off every known universe. Arya, do you not see what you are doing? Even if you happen to seal me away, what then? Look at what you are causing to the realms. Shiro shouted out, but there was no response from Arya. Her eyes continued to stare at Shiro as hundreds of tendrils launched towards her. She's lost her damn mind. Shiro gnashed her teeth in anger. She wasn't even registering what she was doing to the realms. All that was on her mind right now was to seal Shiro away. Even without the codes, Shiro could tell that Arya was burning through her own existence with each passing moment in a bid to stay alive. But her desire for power was counteracting her survival instincts. She was slowly progressing to the point of no return. Just as Shiro dodged one of her attacks, a tiny singularity opened up beside her, causing Shiro to immediately jump to the side, but it still shredded a portion of her torso. Sucking in a sharp breath of air, Shiro furrowed her brows as Arya was now able to use the power of the singularity to her advantage. Mustering up some courage, Shiro forced herself to smile at the situation. I suppose I did ask for a challenge before. She humored herself, but she was at her wit's end. That last attack was the strongest she could think of, as she had made the clones with 95% of her power in an attempt to end the fight then and there. But now that Arya had survived, she had to delay things while recovering her lost power on top of figuring out how she could kill Arya. I could stall until she burns herself out. But if I do that, how many realms will be intact? She thought to herself, her worries multiplying as she knew her own world was suffering from this as well. She had to end the fight sooner rather than later. Shiro didn't know whether or not she should be grateful that Arya has lost her mind, since the fight will become easier to predict. However, now that she's lost her mind, she doesn't care about the consequences of her actions upon the realms. At least when they were fighting earlier, Arya didn't drag others into the fight. Taking a deep breath, Shiro forced herself to calm down. I need to watch out for her singularity attacks, as well as the trumpets. From my estimations, it should be something similar to the 7 trumpets of the apocalypse, meaning there are only 2 trumpets left. Shiro thought to herself while dodging Arya's attacks, retaliating with her own rail cannons. She frowned when Arya shrugged them off like it was nothing. I need something that can hurt her for good, but my strongest attack only served to strengthen her. Why? What did she resonate with that allowed her to fuse with the singularity? Gritting her teeth, Shiro tried her best to dodge the singularity attacks as they appeared in an instant. There was almost no time to dodge, and the wounds were piling up even with her regeneration and healing. She tried to activate Error, but the realm was unstable. It was as though her previous attack had completely separated the space they were in from the world they knew. The system had no influence here, nor were there any codes for her to use. Guess I need to go back to my old tricks. I need to set up a small domain that will let me sense where the singularities appear so I can dodge them. Then I need to analyze the weaknesses of Arya's new body and see what takes effect. Jumping up, Shiro gathered her mana into her hand and sent out a shockwave. A myriad of runes and arrays appeared around the walls of this space as an influx of information flooded Shiro's mind. With these runes, she'll be able to perceive the battle from all around them. Every single attack, every single shift in mana will be visible. But this wasn't enough. Just seeing this wouldn't let her dodge Arya's attacks. She needed instantaneous capture of the entire battlefield every moment to see the exact moment a singularity starts to form. Firing thousands of invisible strands of mana from each array, Shiro started to map out the entire battlefield in her mind. A real-time simulated fight appeared in her mind that overlapped what she was seeing. I need more. The amount of mana strands isn't enough to capture even the smallest change. Shiro frowned as she was still unable to pick up the exact moment the orbs appeared. She needed the strands to be smaller than her nanobots and fill every gap within this realm. Flipping over one of the tendrils that tried to grab her, Shiro continued to plant mana strands across the battlefield. However, her anxiety continued to grow seeing the reflections of worlds within Arya's chest. Even if I start to dodge, I don't have anything to damage her. Flicking her wrist, several blades appeared around her as she sent them piercing towards Arya while being amplified by mana arrays. Each blade had been imbued with a different element that she had attunement towards, but none of them managed to damage Arya with the exception of Error and her nanobots. But even with Error and the nanobots being able to damage Arya, her wounds healed up in a blink of an eye. What part of Error and my nanobots damage her? If I can figure out the fundamentals of what is actually harming her, I can use that to make something new. Shiro thought while biting her lip. Refining her senses to their limit, Shiro weaved through the barrage of attacks while adjusting her nanobots. She would change them ever so slightly and see the effectiveness against Arya while making notes in her mind. A with diaresis Oya. Asterisk crack. Hearing the sound of glass shattering, Shiro glanced towards Arya and noticed one of the reflections of the worlds broke apart and disappeared. Widening her eyes, she watched as Arya's form became more monstrous as an entire world surrendered to her might. This cannot go on. Shiro narrowed her eyes as she took a deep breath. She doesn't have enough information to work with right now, but she completed her new domain, one that would allow her to see everything within this battlefield. Closing her eyes, Shiro ignored the myriad of tendrils and singularities appearing near her. Even with her eyes closed, the world was clear to her. Every tiny detail, every breath, every movement, even down to the smallest scale, could now be observed by her. With the speed of which she could analyze the information in her mind, the world may as well be frozen in time. Asterisk bang. As all of Arya's attacks collided, Shiro was nowhere to be seen. Despite her madness and monstrous form, Arya instinctively felt fear. For the first time in this fight, she had lost track of where Shiro was. In a panic, she launched a net of attacks all around her, destroying everything on sight. Within the web of destruction, a single shadow could be seen flickering at blinding speeds through the gaps. I can see everything you try to do, Shiro declared with a cold voice. The attacks were phasing through her body as though she was a ghost, causing Arya to let out a cry while trying to create some distance between the two of them. But with her body being submerged in the original singularity that Shiro had created, she had nowhere to run. It's still incomplete, but it should be enough to deal with her, Shiro thought with narrowed eyes. Gathering energy into her hands, the world of darkness that they were in started to be filled with a blinding light. The reason why Error and her nanobots worked was due to their properties of being able to break down the fabric of reality. The system was a foreign entity to begin with. When she attacked Arya with Error and her nanobots, it's akin to injecting a virus within Arya's body, allowing her to be studied and noted down as information. Thus, erasing it becomes a possibility. By combining both Error and nanobots at a fundamental level along with her understanding of the system, Shiro is able to achieve the impossible. In her hands, she now possessed the power to comprehend, then destroy. Gathering all of her strength into her right arm, crimson circuits twisted with the bolt of energy as Shiro mustered all of her strength, throwing the bolt as hard as she possibly could. Her muscle and bones cracked under the pressure as the bolt phased through the space between them. Wherever the bolt touched, lines upon lines of code started to spread like an infection. Arya was unable to make a single sound as the bolt exploded in her body, erupting with a cluster of circuits that tore through her flesh. Any attempts to dig out the codes were futile as the core of her being had already been recorded. Codes tattooed through Arya's body as they served as chains, restricting her movements. Hovering in the sky, Shiro stared at Arya coldly as information flooded her mind. Now that the codes have been planted, destroying them was as simple as a wave of her finger. Unbeknownst to Shiro, the moment she had opened her new domain stood up as flames of passion ignited in her eyes. She did it. The all-seeing eyes. She's achieved the first step. Howled in laughter while watching in anticipation. There was only one more thing that Shiro needed to achieve before her dream could be achieved at long last. Only one step. One last step, she muttered whilst on the verge of begging. She so desperately wanted Shiro to achieve the last step. Her expectations only grew seeing Shiro gather the final attack, but it wasn't enough. She couldn't let it end like this. If she allowed Shiro to stop here, she'll never achieve her dream. Your role isn't over yet, grinned as a psychotic light filled her eyes. Within the fractured god realm, the space was forcefully torn apart as Shiro looked up in shock. A pair of skeletal claws plunged into Aria's chest as black goo crawled into her body. More, burn everything if you have to. That is your only purpose, shouted out from within her realm. Her face flushed with anticipation as she could hardly contain herself anymore. Aria's body started to crack apart as two trumpets were forcefully extracted from within. Activating the trumpets forced Aria to mutate further while Shiro was stunned by what she was witnessing. With the bolts still within Aria, Shiro was able to get a glance into the source of the skeletal hands, but that only left her in bewilderment. Her shock was short-lasting as she couldn't afford to stand around. Gathering her strength, she infused herself with as much mana as she could. Now that Aria's achieved the seventh trumpet forcefully through the third party, she was burning through her life force at blistering speeds. From the codes, Shiro could see that Aria's goal has changed. In her mind, there was no longer the desire to seal, only the command issued by. As the seventh trumpet was activated, Aria's form started to disintegrate. All of the flesh and bones protruding out of her body melted into the same black goo that had injected. From within the collapsing corpse of her previous form, a black shadow rose up. Her form seemed to be comprised of 1,000 hands wrapping around her body, while glowing red circuits pulsed around her body. On the spot where Shiro's attack had landed, there was now a blooming flower with circuits acting as the roots. Similar to Shiro's current form, where her body is made of black crystals that reflected the stars, Aria's body was now made of black shadows that represented the horrors. Illusionary strings extended from the skeletal hands from above and connected to Aria's body, piloting her like a puppet as she had already lost her sense of self. Gritting her teeth, Shiro summoned both Iriel and Vinri before overlapping them with the new combination of nanobots and error, allowing the attacks to truly damage Aria. Reveal yourself. Are you going to continue watching from afar? So much you have planned for me, but you won't even reveal your face. Shiro shouted out in annoyance while dashing towards Aria. This was Aria's final stand. The moment her essence burns out due to the third party's interference, there will never be another Aria. While Shiro doesn't know the truth behind the scenes, nor was she going to stop her pursuit of strength, she could respect Aria's desire for the world, even if that desire conflicted against hers. And to see a third party not even show their face while controlling Aria like this was not something Shiro liked to see. Appearing above Aria, Shiro twisted her body and slashed away at the strings in an attempt to sever the connection between the two so that Aria could have control back. But her swords only phase through the strings as though they don't exist at all. Is the new attack lacking? Shiro thought to herself with a frown. Her new ability should have allowed her to comprehend anything and everything she came into contact with, yet the strings couldn't be registered. Just as she adjusted her body, Aria was already in front of Shiro with her claws about to land against Shiro's head. Asterisk clang, parrying without any difficulty thanks to her new domain. Shiro wanted to create some distance, but Aria grabbed the sword and refused to let go. Red cracks spread across Aria's face as a mouth opened up. I suppose you do need a reward for getting this far. But as for seeing me, that'll be your reward after you kill Aria. Your reward for coming this far is a glimpse of the truth, I suppose. Just a small understanding of what set everything off, and you can find out the rest when you see me. Aria grinned as the world around them started to twist. So let's begin back at the war where Anima lost her mind. Slamming her hand down, Aria activated a giant Tier 9 magic circle that started to glitch and flicker. Suddenly, the world around them surged with mana as a 10th layer was formed. The entire realm shook to welcome the presence of a Tier 10 magic circle, while the sheer density of mana caused Shiro's body to be flung backwards. AOES. Widening her eyes, Shiro stared at the magic circle in shock as Tier 9 should be by rights the max, even for chaos. While there are levels of mastery within Tier 9, such as the difference between the original Aria and Shiro, chaos would be around Shiro levels, or perhaps a little higher. Yet the unknown third party activated a Tier 10 magic circle like it was nothing. Reflections of worlds spread across the walls of the realm as Aria jumped up and flicked her finger. A barrier appeared around both of them, with the realm being compressed down to a single orb and crushed to dust. Without saying anything, Aria snapped her finger and a wave of light washed over them. A myriad of codes filled the world to the brim as thousands of years of history was written instantly. Adjusting her eyesight, Shiro frowned, seeing the scenery change as the skies were now blood red. The flood of destruction energy spread across the lands, as there were two prominent presences aside from the two of them. Both of the signatures were familiar to Shiro, as it was Anima and the original firstborn of creation. You're not seeing the full picture. Use your new domain. Arya called out as she appeared in front of Shiro, slamming her claws into Shiro's chest. Guarding at the last second, Shiro could still feel the impact spreading through her body, pushing her physical durability to the limit as she spread out the edges of her domain. As all of the codes appeared in her mind, Shiro realized what Arya was talking about. Even the original Anima and the firstborn of creation were just copies, a reflection of millions of Animas and areas. While it may be the original to Shiro, millions of final battles have happened. Untold cycles repeated and ended. That's the reason why Anima gave up. Shiro muttered in disbelief as she took a step back before twisting her body and launching a counter towards Arya. She was simply destined to lose her mind. Millions of cycles and patterns always emerge, my dear Shiro. Neither Anima nor Arya was special. They're just the tiles on the chessboard, the background of a fight like now. Their lives were never meant to go far. Arya laughed while snapping her finger. Shadow tendrils erupted out from her body as it severed the mana strands that Shiro was using for her new domain, taking her by surprise. Before Shiro could react, a huge force collided with the side of her body as she could feel her bones breaking apart from the hit. Gritting her teeth, she needed to re-establish her domain to stay on the defensive while she worked on her offensive technique. But Arya could see everything that was happening. She knew Shiro's technique. She knew her plans. Your worth is dwindling, Shiro. Fight for it. Innovate. Create. Search for the solution. Parrying Arya's claw attacks with her blade, Shiro jammed Venri into Arya's shoulder before slamming her palm against the pommel, causing the blade to shred through Arya's arm, tearing it from the main body. A maddening light filled Arya's eyes as she regenerated a new arm and grabbed Shiro by the throat and slammed her towards the ground of the battle. However, what Arya grabbed was a decoy that Shiro had switched out. Appearing behind Arya, Shiro jammed Ireel into her body and flooded at Error's power in an attempt to comprehend Arya, so that she could break her apart. Too much information is bad even for you. Arya laughed as information flooded into Shiro's mind. Millions of copies of her life, as well as the lives of everyone included in these cycles, crashed into her like a tsunami, knocking her out momentarily as Arya grabbed Shiro by the head. Everything you need to know is within this realm. It's up to you to find out. And let's give you a little encouragement. Arya grinned as she forced Shiro awake. Waving her hand, she conjured a god-beast similar to the one found in the world of creation and injected it with the same black goo she injected into Arya before imbuing it with chaos power. Creating a portal, Arya sent the beast away as reflections of the realm appeared across the sky, showing the beast tearing through realities with other Shiros unable to stop it. It'll continue tearing through realities until it finds yours. And when it does, I wonder if your friends can hold up against it. Arya laughed as Shiro grabbed at Arya's wrist, anger burning in her eyes. Activating her remaining berserk skills, Shiro gritted her teeth and tore Arya's arm to shreds before reaching for her head. However, Arya managed to dodge to the side before trying to kick Shiro away. But just as her kick was about to connect, Shiro teleported away as chains shot up from the ground, restraining Arya momentarily as Tier 9 magic circles appeared above her. They were similar to the attack that Shiro had used to create the singularity, but Arya noticed something strange with the last magic circle. The world started to cry out as mana was drained from the land without signs of stopping. The ground turned gray and faded to ash as a smile crept up on Arya's face. Magnificent, truly magnificent. She shouted out in joy as Shiro was attempting to form a Tier 10 magic circle from her memories of what Arya had performed. In the distance, both Anima and Arya rushed over trying to see what was happening, but Arya would not have her moment ruined. Background pieces should stay in the background. She cried out as blades shot up from the ground, piercing deep into their bodies as their essence was wiped out completely. Raising her arms as though welcoming the attack, she watched as a bolt of red and purple energy gathered in the sky and plunged down, collapsing the realm around it. Is it finally done? Has she achieved the second requirement? Arya asked as tears started to form around her eyes. Watching her imitation of a Tier 10 attack land against Arya, Shiro narrowed her eyes in frustration. It's not enough. What am I missing to reach tier 10? Shiro thought with a frown. Quickly backing off, Shiro prepared for Arya's counterattack, but Arya only stood still. Her arms dropped down as her posture slumped over. Is that it? She asked in a low voice. Disappointment and sadness could be heard within her tone as she glanced back at Shiro. I suppose this is as far as a copy can go. Appearing in front of Shiro, Arya grabbed Shiro's head, bypassing her domain from just brute force as her body was now being reinforced by tier 10 magic circles. I'm disappointed. Truly. I thought that after countless cycles an exception would appear, but you fell short of my expectations like all of the others. Arya muttered as light faded from her eyes. Her gaze was now cold and unfeeling. You can die in this world alone. The cycle will reset itself in due time. And another disappointment awaits me like before. Twisting her body, Arya plunged her hand into Shiro's chest as black goo flooded into her body. Without saying anything, Arya dropped Shiro before cutting the puppet strings connected to Arya's body. Giving Shiro one last glance of disappointment, turned her gaze away and returned control to Arya. As her conscience returned to her, Arya stood silently while looking down at Shiro, who was convulsing on the ground. Even though had returned her body to her, the time limit was up. She could already feel her body crumbling away. Jumping down, she landed next to Shiro. What? Shiro squeezed through gritted teeth as she was trying her best to remove the black goo from within. She could feel her codes being corrupted with every passing moment that they stayed within her. Nothing. There's no point in sealing you away now. Even if I sealed you away, it won't delay the end anymore. She has given up on you. So this world no longer has any uses. Arya sat down next to Shiro and sighed. I had fought this long hoping that I could extend the life of our universe as much as I could. But in the end, it's all futile. Ending on a whim because you couldn't match her expectations. Now can you shut up? I'm kind of dying here. Shiro shouted in annoyance as she forcefully dug out the black goo with her bare hands. But it was no use. Her vision was already blurring as she could feel the insanity of millions upon millions of animas invading her mind. Their despair and anguish fighting against Shiro's sense of self. What's the point? You already saw how the fight went down, Arya asked as she hugged her knees, laying her head against her knees. She glanced at Shiro, who was still fighting against the corruption. If you get the black goo out of your system, what then? How are you going to find her again? And if you find her, how are you even going to kill her? Arya asked. She didn't know where Shiro was getting her motivation to fight against something so unbelievably powerful that neither of them could do anything. It's obvious, isn't it? I've told you time and time again during our fight. Shiro clicked her tongue in annoyance as she took a deep breath and summoned Error. Error dear, I'm going to need some help. I want to modify my code and turn back time on my own body before the black goo invaded it. I don't think I can help much, but I'll try, mother. Error replied hesitantly, as the black goo was something else entirely. While Shiro could rewrite reality to a certain extent within a given area, the black goo wasn't something that could be easily removed. RVS. A quick analysis of the goo revealed that it was the essence of every cycle that had already happened, condensed into a liquid that would corrupt and drive them insane. It would amplify the victim's strongest desire to the point it would become their only driving force. Watching Shiro struggle in silence, Arya sighed and laid back. Looking up at the crimson sky, she couldn't help but feel bitterness in her heart. She could see why Shiro refused to give up on her path of obtaining strength. If she was just a little stronger, if she could be the one to make the choices, they wouldn't be in this situation. If Arya had the strength to properly seal away Shiro and defy, none of this would have happened. Shiro, Arya called out as Shiro glanced over. Do you have nothing else to do? If you're just gonna watch me die, at least watch in silence. Shiro rolled her eyes as Arya felt like a vein was about to pop. Has anyone told you that you are insufferable? I'm not even sure I want to help you anymore. Arya clicked her tongue. Huh? Help? Don't you hate me? Did you get brain damage or something? Why the F***ck would you help me? Shiro looked at Arya in a mix of confusion and disbelief. Don't get me wrong. I hate you and you hate me. That's not going to change. But our goal is the same, isn't it? To preserve this world. Arya stated while holding back the urge to punch Shiro. Yeah, what about it? How confident are you at stopping her? Arya asked with seriousness. No F***king clue. I mean, did you see her? Tier 10. I tried to emulate what she did, but it was lacking in the end. I tried to figure out what I was lacking, but everything was perfect. It should have activated, but it still failed. Shiro complained. You have nothing to rely on, no source of confidence, and you're still trying to defy her. Arya blinked in disbelief as Shiro shrugged. Well, duh. What else am I supposed to do? Cry about it like *TCH? I might as well try until the end. Taking a deep breath, Shiro activated a Tier 9 magic circle around her as circuits plunged into her body. A myriad of codes appeared in her mind as she wanted to revert her current state. However, the more she analyzed her code, the more she realized how screwed she was with the goo. Due to the nature of the goo, it was rewriting the history of her codes. Her own existence was essentially merging with all of the previous Shiros and animas, and once that's done, she'll become part of the liquid. Trying to undo the moment the liquid came into contact with her was difficult since she'll need to undo the same event that had happened to the other copies of her. And if she was to try doing that, it'll be no different to unwinding her own existence till it was reduced to nothing. The moment the goo had touched her, it was over. Judging by your expression, I take it that you fully understand what it means to be corrupted by the black liquid. Arya smiled bitterly as she showed off her own arm that was now completely melted. But setting aside our imminent deaths, I'll try to help you as I said. Arya said as she stood up and walked in front of Shiro. I still don't get it though. You're not this selfless as to help out your enemy. What do you want from me? Shiro asked with doubt in her voice. Just take a look at my code and figure it out, dumbass. Arya rolled her eyes. Glancing at Arya's code, Shiro finally understood what she meant. Her code was already 70% unraveled, and it was only a matter of moments before her entire existence fades. This was her last act before death. Between the two of us, I still believe my method is correct. However, if I had to choose a winner per se, I'd prefer that to be you than her. We both know I don't have the power to contend against her. Arya chuckled while placing her remaining hand against Shiro's wound. Though it's not like I'm doing it for free either. You got to promise me that you'll preserve the world, all the worlds. I know you have both creation and destruction, so it should be possible for you. Arya asked as Shiro nodded her head. Of course I will. That's the goal from the beginning. Shiro replied with seriousness as Arya smiled in satisfaction. Suddenly, all of the black goo started to drain from Shiro's body as she felt as though her insides were being ripped out. HNG, letting out a small cry, Arya flinched as she felt the goo enter her own body. The resentment of Anima filled her mind, but she had to hold on, at least until all of it was out of Shiro. Thank you. Shiro squeezed out as Arya head-butted Shiro in retaliation. Holding her forehead in confusion, Shiro blinked her eyes at Arya. Spare me the gratitude. Just hearing you thank me makes me want to throw up. Well, I guess F***CKU then. Shiro replied in disbelief as she didn't think Arya wouldn't even want to hear a thank you. That's more like it. And F***CKU too. You're the most insufferable B***TCH I know. Arya smiled as she ripped her hand off Shiro, taking the last remains of the black goo. Gritting her teeth, Arya could feel the invasion of the black goo in her consciousness. As she stumbled back, Shiro quickly grabbed hold of her arm and helped her stand. Shiro wanted to ask if she was all right, but hesitated since they both knew that Arya's time was up. In choosing to help Shiro, her final moments will be filled with pain from fighting against the black goo. Helping Arya sit down next to a boulder, Shiro tried her best to soothe the pain, but her methods were ineffective. Don't bother. Just treat it as your enemy getting everything she deserved. Arya muttered while clutching her arms to hold back her cries of pain. Furrowing her brows, Shiro had a complicated expression on her face as she didn't know what to feel in this situation. She hated Arya and rejected her way of doing things. But it doesn't change the fact that she had just saved her life right now. Stop looking at me like that. I accepted the evils I would commit in my bid to keep the realms safe. Those who desire to change the world should be ready for the consequences that come with it. I'm merely suffering the consequences right now. Arya lectured as Shiro nodded her head. My final advice for you is to find out the secrets behind this world that we're in. Mention this realm holding a glimpse of the truth. Though judging by your expression, you didn't hear what I just said, did you? Despite losing faith in you, she still stops you from finding out the truth. Arya laughed bitterly. Organizing her thoughts, Arya sat up a little before looking at Shiro in all seriousness. I will try to tell you what I know about her, though my information is limited. Plus, I need to work around the censors she's put in place. Her true identity is someone we know very well. As for her role in all of this, I suppose you can call her Order. She was originally created by Chaos to regulate the universe. She wasn't Order in the beginning. It was something she developed into. Well, that's my own speculation. Arya said slowly while trying to think of ways to tell Shiro as much as she could without the information being lost to the censor. Wait, so you're telling me she's Order? Chaos counterpart. Shiro asked as Arya smiled. Sounds like you heard what I said. Sighing relief, Arya flinched as her body started to break apart rapidly. Just promise me you'll save the realm. Arya squeezed out while clutching Shiro's sleeve. I promise. Hearing the response, Arya smiled contently as Shiro bit her lip and stood up. Watching Arya dissolve into a pool of black liquid, Shiro gave her final thanks and farewell before turning to the rest of the realm. Order told me to look deeper into this realm so that I might find the truth. I only got a glimpse so far, but if the truth is here, I need to look even deeper. Shiro thought to herself as she jumped up into the sky and conjured several scouting drones. She wanted to find the edges of this realm and see how far it stretched on for. She needed to hurry since Order had created a god beast that was making its way towards her world. With it being injected with the black goo, it's going to prove to be a tough enemy for Lyrica and the others. Taking a deep breath, Shiro flicked her fingers, and all of the scouting drones she sent started to transform into large pillars that drilled into the land. Nui, with my new powers, I should be able to comprehend everything behind this realm. Attempting to form a Tier 10 magic circle once more, Shiro gritted her teeth in annoyance as the best she could do was Tier 9. Each of the pillars started to inject foreign code into this realm. The purpose of the foreign code was to navigate through the realm and dig up the deepest secrets for Shiro to see. The barrier from Tier 9 to Tier 10 was something so thin yet indestructible. Shiro didn't know what was barring her way, but it was like a thin veil. She could see the other side, yet she still separated. Setting aside the fact that Tier 10 was still unreachable for her, Shiro started to comprehend the code. However, just like before, there was no new information to the truth that she found out. Her reality was just one of many, all simulations by Order's hand. Error, are you there? Yes, Mother. Can you help me pinpoint the very start of the codes? The moment of conception. I want to witness the start of everything. Shiro asked as Error was silent for a short moment. It may take a while, and I'm not sure if Mother can digest all of the information. Condense them down to images so I don't have to read lines upon lines of code. Unless there's something different within the codes, I don't need to read it. Understood. Feeling her mana reserves depleting slowly, Shiro was surprised since the amount of mana Error was using outweighed her mana regen. Though considering the fact that he was reading the history of this realm and condensing it down to images, Shiro could see why it would take a lot of mana. Suddenly, countless images started to flash before her. Key moments from every cycle that has ever happened. Her meeting with her friends, her fights, her anguish. It has all happened before. Even the fight between her and Arya has happened before. The same choices, the same results. What she thought was her own choices, her own will, was nothing but a mass-produced hoax. Countless sentences rang out in her ears, Arya's final words and her own promises. But considering that she was here, she failed to fulfill them before. Stumbling back, Shiro took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. Even for her, it was a daunting task. Millions of Shiros made it to where she was, and none of them succeeded. Biting her lips, Shiro continued to watch the scenes. No matter what happens, no matter what she finds out, she wasn't going to stop. Even if a million failures looked her dead in the eyes like now, she will not stop. The other Mi's were faced with the same choice. They saw everything that had happened before, and they never stopped. All of us know that even if it seems futile, we still have to try to the bitter end. Shiro reassured herself as her heart calmed down. Mother, I think I found the beginning. Error said hesitantly as Shiro raised an eyebrow. Something wrong. There's nothing wrong. Just that the beginning is another cycle. Though there's some differences, so it might actually be easier for me to show you. Tilting her head in confusion, Shiro closed her eyes briefly and saw that her mind had been transported into a simulation of Error's doing. Where am I, Error? Shiro asked curiously as the world around her was slowly being built from the ground up. A simulation of the first cycle. It's easier for Mother to process the information if you experience it yourself. From what I could see of the first cycle from within the codes, it's the only one that's majorly different from the others, and for good reason too. Hearing this, Shiro nodded her head slowly as she wondered what could be different. During this simulation, you will not be able to control your body as you are merely reliving what has already happened. As the scene cleared up, Shiro noticed that she was floating around like a ghost while there was another Shiro sitting beneath her. She looked a little older than what Shiro looked like at this moment and wore an elegant black dress adorned with silver jewelry. In the distance, a woman could be seen running over with a wide smile on her face. Sister, it was Arya. Compared to the Arya that Shiro knew, this one seemed more lively and cheerful. Hugging Shiro, Arya grinned happily as Shiro patted her head. What is it? Has Mother finished what she was planning to do? Yep, she wants you to come over and have a look. She's calling it the Garden Project. Arya nodded her head. Garden Project? Is she planting flowers? Shiro raised an eyebrow in confusion. You'll find out when you come with us. With no other choice, Shiro shrugged and followed behind Arya. The Garden Project? By Mother, does Arya mean chaos? Shiro thought to herself with a frown as the scenery started to change. The fact that she was seeing all of this means that Order had wanted her to find out the truth when they fought. She had a hunch that the truth lies behind the Garden Project, and when she finds out, she'll understand why Anima lost her mind. ####. Sitting in her own realm, Order leaned back and sighed. Disappointing like the rest. I got my hopes up for nothing. She muttered while glancing towards the myriad of realms on the brink of destruction thanks to her actions, her feelings already numb to what she's seeing. I'll let things play out, I suppose. The Garden Project was a failure, and I'm here suffering for it. Order smiled bitterly as tears started to form around her eyes. Following the sisters, Shiro could see that this realm was bland. It was simplistic and lacked any form of decoration aside from a few flowers that had been planted by the side of the road. It seemed like there were just the sisters and the mother living in this area, but Shiro didn't know if there were more people outside of this compound. As they approached a small building, Shiro noticed that there was a stairway leading to the basement. The carvings on the walls didn't match any architecture that she was familiar with, and even had runic symbols that looked more traditional than the ones she knows now. I suppose it's the original runes, ones that got simplified down and had their potency reduced so people could use them. Shiro theorized as this house was a trove of knowledge. While she was still unable to find the truth of Tier 10, her runic knowledge had already increased by leaps and bounds. Arriving at the bottom of the stairway, Shiro could see a single woman standing in front of a hovering orb. She wore a long, elegant dress that didn't show a single bit of skin. The dress had a flowing skirt that seemed to have a life of its own as it fluttered softly despite having no wind in the basement. Black hair that faded into white streaks and a pair of gray eyes. Despite never seeing her before, Shiro instinctively felt that she was chaos. A strange familiarity, yet so foreign at the same time. Her identity as the firstborn knows her, but as Shiro, she did not. Ah, you two are finally here. Chaos smiled softly while turning back to the sister. Yep. Arya nodded proudly as Shiro put away her book. Arya said that you were finished with the garden project? Aren't there plenty of flowers in the garden already? Shiro asked, causing Chaos to chuckle at the notion. No, the garden project isn't for flowers, dear. Come have a look. Chaos beckoned them over as she presented a floating orb to them. The orb was a miniature model of a planet filled with continents that Shiro has never seen before. You two know that at the start of everything, there was me. And from me, the two of you appeared. The others soon followed, but we govern concepts and laws of reality. If we are the rules, for whom do we bind? Chaos asked as the two shook their heads, not knowing the answer. I believe we are created to govern reality, so people may enjoy the fruits of our labor. Flicking her wrist, the orb expanded rapidly as all three of them landed on the plant's surface and watched as people started to appear and develop the world. Generations flickered by with each second, and new advancements blinked through the world's lifetime. No matter what happens, people always appear. And without proper laws governing the world, they die and the world ends. Just like how you like reading your books, and how Arya likes planting more flowers, my innate desire is to foster life into the universe. And I want nothing more than to provide a perfect world for them. Chaos smiled softly as she looked upon the world with tenderness. I want to grace them with the creativity of mana, the chance to ascend and evolve if they wish. But in doing so, it'll lead to the world itself being unable to contain them. Chaos sighed as she waved her hand. As mana began pouring into the world, cracks started to form, and eventually the planet fell apart. The Garden Project is a sequence of events that will temper the world to accept such powers, so that even the strongest being will not be able to destabilize the worlds. Hearing this, Shiro tapped her chin a few times before opening her mouth. But why do we need them to be stronger? Surely if you provide them with a paradise, they'll have no reason to pursue more. Shiro frowned as Chaos shook her head. Alphabe, they are innately curious creatures, ever searching for more. You cannot stop that. If you do, they'll cease to function. Whatever they desire to attain, I will give them a path towards their dream. They only need to have the resolve to tread upon such a path. When the project begins, millions of worlds will begin their course. Each cycle will learn from the past and improve upon itself until a perfect garden to host all life is created. We will give the chosen individuals a higher form of power to assist the worlds in taking their course. Chaos explained as Shiro nodded her head in understanding. Then I guess you want me and Arya to help you with these cycles. Yes. Arya will be responsible for creating more cycles and building upon the knowledge gained from the past. While I need you to help me regulate the number of cycles currently active, I don't want you to terminate them before their due course though. I want them to enjoy what they have first. Oh, when do we start? Arya asked as she was excited thinking about the life she was going to create. She wanted to give them all the blessings she could imagine so that they may enjoy their life to their fullest. We will begin tomorrow. I want to take this time to make sure everything is okay before we begin. As the two sisters left the basement, Chaos turned back to her work table and glanced at the book on the side. It was a device that will document and store every single test result accumulated from the cycles and help make an informed decision on how the next cycle should progress until a perfect garden is found. But there were still flaws within the design, so she wanted to sort that out before gifting this book to her oldest daughter. Hovering in the air, Shiro was silent. If everything she heard was correct, the garden project is what caused the cycles, and it's still happening right now. Arya was meant to create more worlds, while Shiro was meant to destroy them if they got out of hand. Seems like she had already thought of the concept of admins through taking talented individuals from different cycles. I haven't heard any mention of order yet, so I suppose she'll be created when the garden project starts. Shiro thought to herself as she wanted to explore this place some more, but the simulation had already switched. Understanding what error is like, there was most likely nothing else to be found in that moment. Adjusting her eyes, Shiro could see that they were back in the main courtyard with Shiro practicing for her role. She was currently manipulating mana to find a good way to end a cycle without too much pain. No, this won't do. It'll cause them too much pain. Arya wouldn't like it. Shiro muttered as she thought of Arya's happiness when she created new life. Flicking her wrists, several magic circles appeared as she continued to simulate ways on how she could terminate the cycles peacefully. Observing the magic circles, Shiro understood that they were a more primordial form of Tier 9 magic circles. This version of Shiro was essentially brute forcing a Tier 9 magic circle through sheer divinity and power. Despite its inefficiency, it was strangely mesmerizing watching the way Shiro manipulated the mana. Suddenly, her trance was broken when Chaos arrived as she quickly sat up straight. Did I forget something? Shiro asked curiously as Chaos shook her head. No, I just wanted to ask your opinion on the garden project. I know your sister is excited about it since she's similar to me. She loves bringing life to this world. She took after that aspect of me while you understand the reality of too much excess is bad. I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Chaos smiled as Shiro fell silent. Thinking about it deeply for a moment, she sighed and scratched her hair. I am not sure about how I feel about the project. I'm not against bringing life to this world, but in the end, it's still me who has to take them away. Shiro smiled bitterly thinking about how many worlds she'll need to terminate. Hearing this, Chaos patted her head and gave her a deep hug. Though a foreign concept to us, life and death is part of the cycle for these ephemeral beings. They are born into the world and shine as bright as they can before disappearing. Some shine brighter and bring change while others surround them. Chaos explained as Shiro sighed and nodded her head. I know, and it's my role as the destroyer to regulate life in this world. If I'm not around, sister will get too excited and bring too much life. Shiro chuckled. That's true. Your sister doesn't know how to show restraint. How about this? I'll set aside a cycle for you so that you may see why life and death is important for these beings and why your job is just as important as your sister's to bring about balance. I will delay the project for another day so you can sort through your thoughts, okay? Hearing this, Shiro nodded her head eagerly as was curious about how these fleeting life forms live their lives. Arya, on the other hand, was more infatuated with the act of bringing them in than what they do.